One of the funnier phrases that have, for me, taken on a new meaning in the last year and a half, over a year and a half now, or so, since I suddenly suddenly saw how wrong I was about certain things that I believed prior. So that one of those phrases is, I'm not a doctor, but, or I'm not a doctor, so, or I'm not a doctor, therefore, because before, I'm not a doctor, therefore, brought up the image for me of someone in a white coat who has knowledge and wisdom and authority, earned authority, someone that knew more than I, someone whose voice I should pay attention to. And if you say, I'm not a doctor, so it's a way of showing humility and paying deference to someone in a position of authority and being humble and pointing out that, not that you're beneath them, but kind of, if you want to, you can put it that way. All right, so obviously that phrase is different now because because it's been flipped, and my automatic reaction to the word or the image of a doctor is very different now. I picture someone who works in an environment of intimidation and is vulnerable to being sued, very vulnerable, and if given the choice to administer a treatment that will for sure not get them sued versus do something else that will save the patient and will not harm the patient, but open up the door to them being sued, either because that's not what is recommended by the authoritative three-letter what all, or it's not recommended by the hospital, or more specifically, the financial advisors in the hospital, because they have a say in what kind of treatment a person does and doesn't receive. The financial advisors have a say in the person's health and in the doctor's freedom to choose what they feel is best for the patient. And all of that is intertwined with the policies that cause the doctor to fear being sued, right? So that's what I picture now when I hear the word doctor. And also I picture people who, many of whom are in, I guess you could say they're in too deep, and their freedom of speech and thought is not the priority. The typical stuff, career, mortgage, etc. Those are the priority. And then the doctors who are aware of injuries from treatments, and they are aware the callousness and the doctors that are aware of what they're doing but are unable to speak out or choose not to. It's easy to, well, it's very sad. And so when I think of doctor now, I think of someone who's in a lot of debt and who works in an environment of intimidation, meaning that often they're in a fear state. And that's not the best state to be in when you're making any kind of decision, much less a life and death decision. So, and also someone who is sleep deprived and tired. And, I always wondered why, if there's so much research regarding the benefits of proper sleep and how important that is in just a myriad of ways, and how important it is to be asleep and stay asleep, especially during certain hours in the night, how important it is to get consistent sleep, how important it is to wake up at the same time, so that your circadian rhythms are good, etc. I never understood why they put medical students or residents, rather, is it, when they do this to you? They put them through the stuff where they have to stay up a really long time. Whatever it is, 24 hours, 30 hours, I don't know. Maybe 36. Just a kind of abominable long amount of time that a living thing shouldn't be awake for. And I was like, why do they do that? When they know it's bad. When they know that you can't be at your best. When you know that that harms you physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. Why? And I thought, well, maybe they do it because I think the vague reason I gleaned from TV shows and things is that there aren't enough of them. And so they have to have really long shifts. Okay. And then I thought, well, maybe they do that to test you, to make sure if you can perform well even under duress, then that's good practice. It's a way to show you're qualified. I don't know. But now, my personal sense is that it's actually very important, and it's not random. My sense is that it's part of the way that there's just so many things. It's a way for them to really physically in their body get the experience that they are going through something almost like a, in tribal cultures, when they have those coming of age type, where they basically intentionally inflict a kind of trauma in order for you to have certain experiences and have visions and have realizations, etc. So I feel like this is some kind of to create this sense of belonging in a special group, and then you have this like shared trauma with all the other doctors, a heightened sense of you made a sacrifice to join this group, right? To belong. A feeling of, well, I did this, I was willing to do this, and I went through this in order to get here. It just seems like a way to really have them bond tightly with each other and the system that they're entering and their place in it, and to identify firmly with it. I mean, like, there's just something so powerful about feeling things in your body. And I feel like I wouldn't say it's like an induction to a cult. And I wouldn't say that it's kind of like college hazing into a house, a fraternity. I wouldn't say that, and I wouldn't say that it's part of the system of intentionally creating a trauma bond, and kind of self-congratulatory, I wouldn't say that. But it does seem to, but I think it's clear that it's very useful. And I think there's a reason that they continue to do this practice of keeping them awake for super long periods of time. And I think it benefits. It helps create the type of person that they want. The entire kind of system, not just the sleep deprivation, but the mountains of debt and kind of the way that it's set up and who is quickly promoted and who isn't. Whether it's because you published a lot or were able to secure a lot of funding, or well, now I'm talking about like researchers, not just doctors, right? In any case, I think it's sad. And actually, the reason why I started this video was to say that it's a really, I think a lot of people's opinions about the way that they view doctors and healthcare in general, I think is safe to say has shifted for, let's say, everyone's views about doctors and researchers and scientists and the health profession and the medical field, and big pharma and all of that, and the CDC and the NIH, health organizations, the WHO, World Health Organization. People are shifting their opinions and views of these things. And one of the things that I realized was that doctors seem to be kind of a big linchpin in this in the rolling out of a certain kind of a checklist of things that that need to be done, from 2020 onward. And so that's really shocking and horrifying and horrible, especially given that most doctors are good people, well-meaning people, upstanding people. But of course, they are unintentionally doing horrific things. And so that's very heartbreaking and disgusting and upsetting. And also it's tempting to be judgmental. But what I happen to do is I remind myself of the fact that the main reason why I am not in that position of administering dangerous things that damage children, damage adults, but especially children. And everything else. The main reason is because I was too dumb to go to med school. That is one of the reasons for anyone who is not anyone, but most people, I would say. Most people who are appalled, and rightfully so, at what's happening, and are very angry, rightfully so, at people like doctors and researchers and who are doing the unthinkable, whether or not it's intentional. It's horrifying and we can judge them, but really, it's not that I'm this morally superior, beautifully superior, person. Like, we all have the same potential for, let's use the words good and evil, and yes, it's vile and unspeakable what's happening in the hospitals, but thank God I'm not in their shoes, and the main reason isn't because I'm better or in any way at all. It's simply because I would never have gotten into med school. That's the main reason. And so I like to remind myself of that because it takes away because it's easy to feel very to feel outraged and to feel, obviously these are all things that we all have to experience, but we shouldn't get stuck there. And that's something that helps me unstick myself from the horror and the judgment that I feel for people who are committing crimes against humanity, knowingly or not. The whole obsession in the culture in general of people who have a certain type of smarts, who are able to memorize a lot or recall a lot of information, or what is the use of all of that if you don't have courage, if you don't have discernment, or anyways. So I was wondering if I thought that would be a kind of lighthearted thing to share, and I wonder if other people have come to the same realization that it's like, yes, on one level it's true that you are that you are right and you're not a criminal, and this person or this group is wrong and they are criminals. Yes. But let's just admit the main reason why we don't find ourselves unintentionally killing people and then not speaking up about it. It's because we were too dumb for med school. And hallelujah for that.